Hey guys, I'm going to recap the 2017 crime drama movie. It's called Molly's Game. This film tells the true story of a former Olympic skier who organizes the most exclusive poker event in the world with very high stakes. The players who participate in the game are famous people such as Leonardo DiCaprio, Ben Affleck, and many other wealthy businessmen. But unfortunately, she becomes the target of the FBI. From that moment, she has to try to clear her name. With all the threats, can she survive and clear her name? Let's find out. Molly is the daughter of a world ski champion named Jeremy Bloom. For 16 years, she practiced skiing to become a person who could continue her father's achievements. At 20, Molly finally entered the ranks of the best skiers in America. Molly's achievements are not only from skiing, but she is also the best graduate on campus. Long story short, she makes it to the Winter Olympics, where she will show her skills. When it is her turn, an unexpected accident prevents her from being selected as her country's representative in the Olympics. After that incident, she postpones her law school plans and goes to Los Angeles to find a new atmosphere. Her father, who disagrees with her choice, decides to stop giving her money. With her father gone, Molly has to stay at a friend's house and survive on the rest of her savings. After some time, Molly gets a job as a waitress in a luxury club. When she serves guests with her shrewdness in words, she meets a customer named Dean. Dean runs a personal business as a bookie holding exclusive betting games. Only a few, not just anyone, can play in the arena, such as famous artists and people with extraordinary wealth. Dean offers Molly an extra job as a secretary in his office. From here, Molly begins to get to know the poker world. Before the match on her first day, Molly is seen helping prepare the playing field. She also welcomes the players who start arriving. These players are movie stars, singers, directors, and prominent corporate entrepreneurs. When the game starts, Molly, who has high curiosity, begins discovering the terms used in poker games. He also serves the players by giving them several glasses of drink as part of his job. After the game ended, he received a generous tip of $3,000. Molly further spread her wings in the world of gambling by paying several people in luxury clubs to find rich people who are interested and like playing poker. Since then, she has made poker her money field, so her profits have increased rapidly. Molly could buy apartments, new cars, and other expensive things from the tips she got while working at the poker room. 3 years later, Molly is still loyal to Dean. She already has $58,000 in savings from all the tips she's gotten so far. Jealous of Molly's money, Dean decides not to pay her anymore. Molly objected because Dean's decision would indirectly threaten her position in the gambling arena. Dean is already jealous of Molly's income and maintains his conclusion. Not wanting to wait for Dean to stop her, Molly makes big plans by renting an expensive hotel room, buying $17,000 worth of casino equipment, and preparing expensive drinks and dinners. To make sure her business is legal, she sees a lawyer. The regulations there say that such a business can be permitted as long as it is not intended for the public, there are no drugs, and it does not take gratuities from the players. Molly, who only provides an arena and uses tips, is not breaking the law. When Dean ultimately fires Molly, she cleverly invites poker players who used to come to Dean's place to go to her arena. She reveals that now she is the holder of the gambling arena. Once the game was over, Player X asked her to increase the bet money and look for even richer players. Molly grants his request and recruits new players. One of the new players there is Harlan. He is a rich player but often makes decisions based on his emotions, making him often lose at poker. Finally, he feels like a loser and goes berserk. He is broke and unable to pay his debt to Molly of $1.2 million. Surprisingly, a week later, Harlan can pay off his debt. It turns out to be a loan from Player X, who asks for 50% interest. Seeing this as blackmail, Molly disapproves of the man's actions until an altercation ensues. This results in Player X deciding to leave. At the same time, he is also taking players he likes to play with elsewhere. That night marked the end of Molly's poker arena. She becomes significantly depressed. She doesn't expect the haul to end so quickly after 4 years of running without problems. Not wanting to give up, Molly goes to New York and re-establishes the poker scene. Because she is already established, she still dares to run the arena. Even though she has rivals there in the poker hall owned by the Russian mafia. Molly is no longer targeting artists playing in her game, but only playboys and wealthy businessmen. In running her business, she recruits an expert poker player, a programmer, and the daughter of an American diplomat with contacts in several Saudi royal families. They plan a vast arena 4 times a week with a big initial bet of $250,000. With her new game already underway as planned, Molly could have made $4,700,000 in profit by the end of the year. Molly's game doesn't take long to become an attraction for high rollers. At her gambling den, Molly uses the apartment to monitor security cameras. This is done as a precaution in case of cheating during games. In case of fraud, she does not hesitate to interrogate and warn those who act fraudulently. One night, Molly is advised by a friend to take a penny off every bet that is on the table. Because sooner or later, the media will find out about the business, and the players don't want their privacy to be spread. They will need a colossal fee to cover it, which will not be enough to use tips. Molly realizes that if she accepts recommendations, her business will become illegal. But after thinking for a while, Molly starts asking her friends to take tips in the next game. Later that night, Molly is visited by one of the players. He says whatever he wants in a drunken state, from family problems to the poker arena in Brooklyn. It's a place with players and billionaires from Russia. Molly looks for opportunities. When he loses big and is unable to pay his debts, she gives him an out. She wants him to invite players who used to play in Brooklyn to come to her place. Several years later, while Molly is resting at her apartment, she is suddenly raided and arrested by the FBI. She's charged with running an illegal gambling business. A few days after her arrest, Molly is released by posting $100,000 in bail to find a lawyer. She meets with a lawyer named Charlie. She explains that it has been 2 years since she started her gambling business. Molly has lived a clean life and spent time writing books about her journey. Molly wonders why she is arrested, but Charlie explains the fault in the book she wrote. In the book, Molly names several famous people who have played in her arena. At first, Charlie refuses to be her lawyer. But Molly doesn't stop persuading her to cry and expresses how depressed she is. Because that day, Molly has to go to court and needs a lawyer to accompany her. Charlie, unable to stand the sight of her, finally agrees to accompany Molly to her first trial. A few days after the first trial, Charlie explains to Molly that they are fighting a major Russian mafia. This is because of the gambling cases related to them. The only way is to provide the prosecution with evidence of Molly's life story on her hard drive. However, Molly denies it because some data and personal messages are stored by famous people who have played in the arena. If it spreads, it can destroy the lives and even careers of these people. In her book, Molly mentions several names of famous people. Some disguise themselves as Player X, who is said to be Tobey Maguire. To get Molly to believe him, Charlie gives her his phone and says he never divulges anything regarding confidentiality for his clients. He is willing to leave his position if caught lying. Hearing Charlie's sincerity, Molly agrees to give him the hard drive containing the crucial data. One day, Charlie reveals that the government is finally willing to cooperate with Molly's case. He asks Molly to tell them everything she knows to make things easier. Again, Molly never wanted to spit it out. Charlie stresses that the government will quickly put her in jail if she refuses. Molly finally agrees to tell everything as long as it is about herself. She will not reveal anything about the privacy of her players. Molly is further depressed when her former player is arrested for investment fraud. She has to pay the investors a loss of $500,000 to keep the problem from getting more significant. With various issues, Molly plunged into the world of drugs. She begins to feel uncomfortable with her life. In the evening, Molly meets her friend for work. For undisclosed reasons, Molly declines the offer and offends them. When she is about to rest, a man suddenly comes and robs her money. Molly can only surrender and do what the robber wants. Because it isn't just Molly who was threatened, the robber also threatened to harm her mother. Fearful of this threat, Molly shut herself in until her wound healed. Molly decides to return to gambling for a week. After she makes a profit, she will quit gambling altogether. However, when Molly is about to go to the arena, she receives a message that the FBI is raiding. Molly decides to leave her apartment and live with her mother. To lighten the case, Charlie invites Molly to meet with the FBI to provide all the information. For almost 5 hours, she answers all the questions from the 2 FBI members. The longer they talk, the more cornered the question that Molly is a mobster. Charlie defends her desperately and says that the government had confiscated all of Molly's money and she was not like other bookies. When he returns home, Charlie tells Molly why he wants to help her. All because of her daughter, who had read Molly's book and concluded that she was innocent. He says there was still one thing that could alleviate Molly's case, handing over the hard drive containing all of Molly's evidence. But Molly would instead plead guilty than reveal all that information. The trial begins, and the judge opens the way for the hearing and gives 87 questions to answer. Molly answers all the questions honestly and admits that she is guilty. Because Molly's answers are so convincing and honest, the judge and the FBI negotiate. Long story short, at the end of the trial, the judge rejects the government's punishment recommendation. Molly only received 200 hours of community service, 1 year of probation for supervision, and a fine of $200,000. At the end, Molly is able to smile again and join in on the banquet celebrated by her father and her friends. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment to help the channel out. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.